it's Linda from Rising Star Resumes. I want to talk about evidence. Evidence is something you usually hear about in a legal trial. Each side has to provide evidence that the allegations they're making are true. So what does the word evidence have to do with your resume? Well, you can make any claim you want about yourself, and people do all the time, but how do you prove it? How do you show without telling? An effective resume provides evidence for employers to understand what your skill set is. So you might say, as on my resume, there's a bullet about how an article I wrote for a major New York City newspaper changed state legislation with respect to Medicaid use of a certain material for children with cerebral palsy. Okay, that's evidence for my claim that I am excellent at written communication. So I don't have to say I'm excellent at written communications. I can demonstrate it. I can provide evidence of how effective my writing is by pointing to that example. And every single one of you can do the same thing. So if you're fantastic at accounts receivables, so you can show evidence of how fantastic you are by talking about how many invoices you send out on average in a month, what your collection rate is, just evidence that shows or backs up what your claims are about yourself. Now, there are things people put on their resumes that purports to be evidence of their skill set that actually doesn't provide the employer with much evidence of anything, and that comes down to educational credentials. All your degree tells an employer is that, number one, you got into that school, which if it's a prestigious Ivy League school, it's nice to know you got in. But it doesn't say much, and people who put their GPAs on their resume, also that doesn't tell me anything other than that you were a good test taker, or maybe you took easy classes. I don't know. It doesn't really matter because GPAs are also fairly subjective. What matters is, what have you done with this education? If you're applying for an entry-level job, evidence might be not the classes you took, because that just tells me that you sat in a chair in a lecture hall or at a lab, but evidence would be projects you worked on. So for an entry-level person who doesn't have a lot of job experience, the evidence would come down to projects you've worked on in school. So at the end of the day, just to put a resume, words on a paper meant to impress, all well and good. But to have your resume be effective, you really need to provide evidence. Thank you for watching my video. If you want to learn more about resume writing and how it can help jumpstart your job search, head over to my website, risingstarresumes.net, and you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. And while you're at it, watch some more of my videos to learn about interview tips and what should and should not be on your resume.